So do you want to just chat type of situation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very casual.
Casual? Okay.
Actually, might take some notes. Just so I get it correct, Chris Pearson, President 4G Americas,
Yep.
Jose Otero, Director, South America, Caribbean?
Latin
America.
Latin
America.
yeah.
Do you guys have cards?
Yeah, I gave him. Hopefully I gave you. No, I did not give you my card. These are.
Whose cards are those?
You wouldn't believe it.
Both I left.
Yeah. Actually, when I know what happened.
Arrested?
I know what happened. Actually, yeah.
Are they arrested?
No, that long story. I know what happened.
I told you. I gave you the box, so you brought those.
Yes, you gave me the box and they were on my desk.
Well,
so
I told you to throw it out.
Grabbed them to leave.
I just grabbed. I didn't even look at them. So it's like I got a lot of cards. Sorry.
No, not at
This
all.
person that used to work for us, and so he came and visited our Bellevue office where we're
Say,
located.
well, this is yours.
And then he gave me this box of cards. And, oh, these are yours. But he meant, so I just put them down. I was busy. I put them over here. And then before the trip, I'm like, oh, I better grab some cards. I just grabbed. It had 4G America's business cards.
So
It was a
that's
box. I just grabbed them, put them in, and it's like they aren't my card.
That's been sitting there for over a month, though.
Oh yeah, well, it's been a busy month.
I'm just going to do a brief little introduction, introduce everybody,
Okay.
and go right into it.
All right, sounds good.
Make sure myself is on silent here. Yep. For RCR TV, I'm Sean Kinney. We're here at Mobile World Congress meeting with Chris Pearson, President of 4G Americas, and Jose Otero, the Director of Latin America and Caribbean. So, gentlemen, I thought we could maybe start with just getting a market update from your respective regions.
Sure. So in North America, LTE is a definite. We're actually North America's a leader with LTE as far as number of connections, as coverage, and even if you look at the number of operators. Right now, there's 67 commercial networks in the North American region. And if you look at those networks, they're not just covering the big cities, but they're actually covering major markets like the entire United States is covered. So, we continue to look at lots of opportunities with LTE. Right now, as far as LTE Advanced, you've seen carrier aggregation brought out to the market, but we expect to see a lot of the LTE Advanced features over the next 12 months come out to the marketplace. So it's a real exciting time. We see a lot of progress in LTE, and we expect to see a lot of progress on LTE Advanced in the future.
And Jose, if you could tell us it's sort of a market analysis of Latin America and Caribbean regions.
Well, there are two things in Latin America that are completely related that happened during 2014, which is the allocation of spectrum in many of the larger countries. I'm talking about Argentina, I'm talking about Venezuela. Then you have announcement as well of new spectrum auction coming out of Brazil, Colombia, and Mexico. That's good news. Why? Because if you look into the region, once they have allocated spectrum 3 to 4 months later, in the case of Argentina, 2 to 3 weeks later, they launch LTE. So when we look into Latin America without the Caribbean, we started 2014 with 26 LTE network, with limited coverage. We ended the year with 445 networks, and we are expecting at least 10 to 15 more LTE networks to be launched during 2015. What's the good news is basically since now everybody, like you have more than 2 operators in every single country in Latin America, with the exception of Central America mostly, with LTE or launching LTE in the next 2 to 3 months. We go from the initial launching phase with limited coverage to aggressive expansion, which is going to lead to massive adoption of the technology.
Okay, and how about in the Caribbean?
In the Caribbean is a little bit different. The LTE in some places have been launched as an alternative technology to compete with the fixed incumbent. If you look into Antigua and Barbuda, what you have there is LTE TDD. but we also have very good cases of LTE launches in Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is the leader in the Caribbean with the 5 mobile networks launching it with LTE FDD, but we also have another company that is expected to launch LTE this year on the TDD version. We also have in Dominican Republic a couple of LTE network for mobile, another one recently launched for fixed, and when you look into the non-Spanish speaking Caribbean, in the Bahamas, prior to, it's a monopoly right now, but prior to liberalization, you have a LTE network that is being aggressively expanded in that region. Plus, in areas where you have financial centers, Cayman Islands, Turks and Caicos, you also see LTE being developed.
Right, and we talk so much about spectrum. I think this most recent FCC auction was a stark reminder of how valuable an asset it is and how important it is looking forward that we get spectral efficiency and access new spectrum. Mm-hmm. From a policy perspective, what can be done to foster that?
Well, 4G Americas, as well as other associations, have been working a long time to work with the U.S. government and other governments throughout the region to bring out more spectrum to the marketplace. Just by witness here at the Mobile World Congress about all the possibilities of what mobile broadband can do, or even the Internet of Things in the future, it's a requirement to have more spectrum to do this. I mean, we can optimize our networks, we can continue to improve our networks as you go to LTE Advanced and then even someday to 5G, but really the lifeblood of the industry, kind of like water is to a fish, you need more spectrum. So 4G Americas has been working with regulators throughout the region on educating them about the needs for more spectrum. We worked very hard on the AWS-3 spectrum, and it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, that took years and years of work of 4G Americas and other associations to work with the U.S. government. And there are some opportunities coming up. The first opportunity will be the TV broadcast incentive auction in the United States, which is a 600 megahertz spectrum. That's expected to be in 2016. And then there's another band, which is the 3.5 band. And it's basically considered the innovative band because we expect, or we are hoping, that the 3.5 band in the United States could be used on a shared basis with the federal government and be used for small cells. So those are kind of the 2 near-term opportunities for spectrum, and we're looking at more opportunities as well.
Jose, what spectrum opportunities are you watching in Latin America?
Well, the first thing I need to clarify, when we're looking into Latin America and the Caribbean, we are talking about over 40 different regulatory frameworks, like over 4 different markets. So it's not always the same issue that concerns people in one market what concerns another country, for example. Plus, you don't have the spectrum harmonized in the region. So whereas you have in some area, in some markets, a lot of interest in 3.5, you have countries that have already auctioned and allocated this spectrum many years ago. On the near term is that what we are doing in the region is we are talking to the government directly and telling them this is the importance of allocating a spectrum to allow for mobile broadband growth in rural areas. If you want mobile health, you want mobile education, you want increased transparency, you need mobile technologies to provide broadband speed on these areas. Why? Because that is going to benefit the economic development of those regions, and they will tell you, yes, okay, to give mobile broadband to this region, you need to allocate a spectrum, which basically goes on a national license in most countries now. So to cover the rural area, you need to cover the urban areas as well. And this is the role I'm doing for 4G Americas right now. I'm meeting with the government. We are becoming an information source for different ministers in the region, and actually going there to give them seminars, workshops, and presentations on the importance, not only on the technology part, but on how a mobile broadband impact the people that are on the ground in terms of education, health issues that politicians actually understand.
And Chris, you mentioned the 3.5 band and spectrum sharing, and while a 5G standard is still very much up in the air, I think that might be part of it to some extent. From the perspective of 4G Americas, how do we move from LTE onto 5G, and hopefully how do we move there by 2020?
Great question. Well, number one, I think 4G Americas is on record and feels very strongly that LTE and LTE Advanced have a huge runway of robust innovation ahead of us. So right now, as I mentioned, we've only seen carrier aggregation as really being one of the key features that have been deployed in the LTE Advanced. But there's a huge runway over the next 5 years, 6 years of innovation that's going to be part of that standard. So as we move beyond LTE Advanced, you get to what would be 5G, and there are no specific requirements out right now, and there's no standards. But I think the time is now for associations and other groups to coalesce around consensus building about what it's going to be. 4G Americas put out in October, end of October, one of the first organizations to put down on paper really what the vision of possibilities are for 5G as far as technology recommendations. We put out a paper that included use cases, basically market drivers for network drivers, and also for the consumer and enterprise drivers. And then finally, we talked about how you build upon 4G to get to 5G. And finally, we came up with 15 technological concepts for 5G that need to be worked on a little bit further, but to be looked at for 5G as we get there. So we're interested. We know there's going to be some announcements at this show over the next few days about what other organizations think about 5G, but we're hoping that they are close to what we have done already, and we're going to continue to work on 5G.
Excellent. Well, Chris, Jose, I really appreciate you giving us an update on the fine work 4G Americas is doing.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
All right, gentlemen, thank you. I really appreciate it.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Is Roberta still working with you guys?